don't get me wrong, like hard work is also a limiting factor for your skill in poker.
That's certainly true. Well, it requires a certain kind of intelligence and also a certain kind of openness to change your view. I read both Joe Navarro's and Mike Harrow's books, and I don't know. It seemed kind of like pop psychology for Joe Navarro's book, especially when we're talking about negotiations. I thought Chris Voss's book for negotiations was far wildly better, but like I
Wait,
like Chris Voss a
who is it?
lot. Chris Voss,
Chris
but
Voss.
that's like applies to real life. Like he has really practical advice that applies to real life. Whereas Joe Navarro said a lot of things where I don't think people are this telegraphic with their body language and things like that. And at least, I mean, I can give an example actually. That's a really funny example. Um, I just don't think people like their feet like really tells you that much beyond what's obvious, really. Um, as an example, Phil Sternheimer read Joe Navarro's book, and your buddy Ben Lamb. Did you hear about this?
No,
Your, your,
I'm intrigued.
your buddy, your buddy Ben Lamb knew that he read that book, and so Ben Lamb pointed his feet in the direction that he wanted Phil to make his decision based off of. So he knew that he was looking at Ben's feet. He look under the table, and then he do the wrong thing.
That's next level. I love it. I mean, Ben
It's
is
hard
one
to.
of the absolute goats at it, right? And so when you're choosing, like, think of it like everyone's on a different level, right? And so, yeah, if someone's level 0, 1, whatever, you can take these pieces of information and apply them. But as the levels change and people's knowledge and understanding of them change, you basically just like reverse. So it's like, okay, this was weak, now it's strong. This was strong, now it's weak. And, Ben is incredibly adept at, I call it like rock, paper, scissors, where it's knowing what level someone's on and how to counteract with it. And I think that that's hilarious. Just the fact that, people go and read, they have this like baseline knowledge of a situation, they're still like a novice, and then they think they're going to use it on one of the most adept players in the world at it. Like, it's a joke, That's just like not how you apply it. And so for me, that's like incredibly comical. And to think that he could read a book or watch a course and be better or get a read on someone that's like one of the best in the world at it is hilarious.
Well, Philip's pretty stubborn. I mean, he's like trying to be a pro. He's he's getting there, I guess you could say. It's hard to beat the actual best in the world. He's very smart though. You have to think of him that. It's hard to beat best in the world at anything. Like pure effort kind of trumps a lot of intelligence or whatever the it is.
I do think
Um,
intelligence in poker is often people's ceiling, right? Like it doesn't matter how hard someone works if they're just a moron. They're not going to be able to get great at the game. Like you're obviously very intelligent, Phil very intelligent. Like these are people that are able to have a high level of success at the game because it's one of the limiting factors. Don't get me wrong, like hard work is also a limiting factor for your skill in poker.
that's certainly true. Well, it requires a certain kind of intelligence and also a certain kind of openness to change your view, which is
Yeah.
not exactly intelligence, by the way. It's like almost like equivalent to flexibility, I would guess, to fitness, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I could see that. And I like I said, I don't think it's like the only limiting factor.
Yeah, yeah. There's a number of things. There's a few things I do personally to deflect a lot of the live tell stuff. I think that a lot of the live tell things have shifted in form. There's a lot of like variations of weak and strong as weak that people still use. For example, the
Yeah, which
underlying
is the exact
principles.
same concept I just talked about how it switches at every level as the game changes.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. I guess you basically said what I said. I just didn't realize it. And I think that yeah, there's a few underlying psychological principles I've noticed across populations, but you can only really see them with loads of experience. Um, but yeah, it's not so obvious. You have to like really know which details to pay attention to, and usually people, if the people don't care, then you have to look for certain other sorts of things. You have to wait for them to get sloppy.
Yeah, that's true. I think when people are very conscious of it, it's considerably more difficult to pick up on things. Like I remember playing in the Poker Go studio against some elites, and I would spend so much time focusing on this, and it took me like days or tournaments or just like tons of hours to get live tells on some of the players in there. And there was like a while early on before I even picked any up where I was like, is this even worth it? Like, I have a shot clock. Shouldn't I be focused on that? And then when you finally start to like get some on these people as you're decoding the information, it definitely becomes more worth it. But then like that's against the elites, right? Like it should be harder to get a tell on the elite. But then I have some stuff that's just like baseline strategy that I can sit down with John Smith at the table and just know that like, oh, okay, this is probably weak.
Yeah, I do a lot of that as well. I would think actually. So, do you find that really practical these days, especially when you're playing? It seems like you're playing a lot of PGT, Poker Tour type stuff. I would think that's really tough actually in comparison to a lot of what's out there because all the pros are in like Las Vegas or whatever or Los
Yeah, I mean,
Angeles.
the shot clock limits the ability of live tells you're able to get on people, just because like, I mean, even consider the fact if someone is bluffing and it's a big spot, most people can hold it together for a little bit of time before the wheels really start to come off and like you know what I'm saying. So like I would say that it definitely hurts, and for those games, you do want to just have like a really strong GTO baseline with some exploits in there, and know which way you want to deviate slightly, because if you deviate too much on either direction against good players, you're probably either not going to get paid, or if you're playing too tight, and if you're playing too loose, they're just going to three bet the shit out of you. So, it's definitely adjustments that you can take against different player pools, and knowing which strategy to take into each field is a major key to success.